Hello guys, welcome to yet another video. Welcome back to F1 with Mike, and this is your review for the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. Now, I'm trying to do this video in a hurry because I have some place to be right now, but I feel like if I don't do this now, I might not do it, and because we have another race week on our hands, I better put this video out today or before Monday morning for sure. Anyway, let's get into it. The Austrian Grand Prix, wow, what a weekend. Started off with a sprint into an exciting race that we just had I say morning because I'm in Canada. The race is between 9 to 11 a.m. here. So let's start with the sprint weekend. Generally, FP1. FP1 was a decent session. I think there was not much happening. It was just the regular guys trying to push as much as they can to get to understand the track, adjust their setups, understand what tire strategy they were gonna use for the race. So yeah, nothing special happening in FP1. Then the sprint qualifying. Well, I was pretty surprised Max was on pole, but well, I thought it would be either of the McLarens, but Lando was P2, I think, and Oscar was P3. I think who was P4? I don't remember really, but I think maybe it was one of the Mercedes. I think it should be George Russell. Yeah, George Russell was fourth. Yeah, George Russell P4, Carlos Sainz P5, Hamilton P6. I think so. Hamilton P6, then Leclerc P7, and Sergio Perez P8. I think that was the final classification for the result. But when it came to the qualifying was not so. It was just there really. I think it was just the only surprising part was just that okay, Max was on pole. I mean, not you would say not surprising because of the ability that guy has and all of that. But for the race, the sprint race, I don't think there was anything special really about it. I think it was just the Ferraris making up some good moves at the beginning of the sprint. Carlos Sainz overtaking Hamilton to get into P4, and I think he overtook Russell to get into P3 into P4 because Russell was P4. He overtook Russell into P4, but then Russell got him later in the race. Hamilton was also getting close to him at the end of the race as well, but he was able to hold off the chase of Lewis Hamilton up until the end. So there, and then Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc had a very horrible qualifying this weekend in everything. When it came to the sprint race or the main race itself, it was a weekend to forget, to be honest. And even the race was just one to forget for Charles Leclerc. I just don't understand what happened to him there. But you know what? These things happen even to the best drivers on different weekends. So it just happens that Charles Leclerc's bad luck has continued for this time, and well, hopefully in Silverstone he can do much more better. But for the sprint race, I had predicted that Lando would win, Max will come P2, and Oscar will be P3. So it will be like a McLaren sandwich. Now it's a McLaren sandwich, but just that Max was P1. Max led the sprint race for most of it. I think, in fact, he led every lap really. It's just that I think Lando overtook him at a particular point to go P1, but then Max got him back. I think like it was in 3 corners or so. Max got him back, and Max was back in front. And because of how close the racing was between the top 3, Oscar was able to get Lando when Max overtook, and yeah, they never looked back. And Oscar too was, I think, kudos to Oscar. Last year he had issues managing his tires, but in the sprint race he was able to hold off Lando till the end, and Max finished like maybe some 5-6 seconds ahead. I don't know, I can't remember really, but I know it was a decent gap, maybe 5 seconds or so. But I think the most interesting part of that entire sprint race was when that exchange between Max, Lando, and Piastri happened, and yeah, and we know how that ended. Lando dropped to P3, or Piastri got to P2, remained there till the end of the race. Max P1, easy peasy. Now let me get into my other predictions. Before I get into that, I want to talk something about Lando. I think Lando is a very good driver, right? But when it comes to racing Max Verstappen, I don't know. Maybe he's still learning how to battle at the front. Maybe that's a thing. You know, I've heard people say things like, oh, you need to, he doesn't have experience battling at the front of the grid. And I'm like, nah, he's a very good driver. I don't think that matters. But honestly, I think it does now because seeing the kind of things Lando does sometimes is like, I'm like, nah, this doesn't make no sense. Because, like, if you watch the sprint race, how come you overtake Max and then by in the next two corners, Max gets you back? That will never be Charles Leclerc. It can never happen. You're leaving the door open. Why? Why are you doing that? You know, and it's just one of those things. But I think Lando, when I get to the end of this video, you know Lando has a lot to learn. Like, especially when it comes to racing Max Verstappen. I don't think he realized how good his friend is, you know? He just knows, oh, Max is my friend and we're all lovey-dovey, relationship is jubbly, whatever. But listen, this is not the time for it. If you want to win a world championship against Max Verstappen, you might have a faster car, but Max Verstappen, his skill is out of this world. As a driver, he's the best on the grid right now. And if you want to get any chance of winning a championship, you have to battle that guy well. You have to come with your A game 100% every time. Now, let me go to my predictions for the race. For the flop of the week, I went with Mercedes. Honestly, no, that didn't happen at all. Mercedes had an amazing weekend. I think in the sprint race, they had George in P4 and they had Lewis in P6. And in the race itself, they had George P1. George won the race for some circumstance, which I will get to at the end of this video. And then I think Lewis finished P4. Yes, Lewis finished P4. So, honestly, amazing weekend for the Mercedes team. There was nothing. My vibes didn't come through this weekend. My surprise driver of the week or team of the week, my surprise of the week was VCAP, and they did much more better than they had last week in Spain. I think they didn't get no points in the sprint, but in the race itself, Daniel Ricciardo did well. I think this is one of those weekends where Daniel Ricciardo outperformed Yuki Tsunoda, and he did very well. He finished, I think, P9, 2 points to the VCAP team, which is very good. I think I've said this before. For Daniel Ricciardo, it's all about building confidence from now on. Honestly, just keep doing what you're doing. If there's any collision in the front and there's anyone picking up points, it should be Daniel Ricciardo. Yes, Yuki is good, but if Ricciardo wants to, because it's not Yuki's future that is under contention at the moment, it's Daniel's. Daniel has to be outperforming Yuki every time to get those points, you know? And maybe, who knows, the way Perez is behaving in that Red Bull, they might switch them and just maybe bench Perez, because honestly, I don't understand what's going on with Perez. But yeah, so that came true. For pole position, I went to Max Verstappen. Max was on pole. I don't know what they did to that car after the sprint race, but that performance in qualifying from Max Verstappen was out of this world. He put 4/10 on second place. That's Lando. Lando was P2 too during the main race itself. So I was just really surprised. Like, where did that come from? You know? And also, one person that had a very terrible weekend, Charles Leclerc. Oh my goodness. This is just, I have to go quickly through this one. I don't know what happened to what has been happening or what is the reason why Charles Leclerc is suffering like this, but honestly, I have not seen an unlucky driver like this in a long time. Because what the hell? Like, we know he's a very good driver, and I know sometimes he always pushes the car to a limit where he's like, oh, I want to make up this advantage in qualifying, so during the race I can just maintain it and try to fight and defend. But you can't make up 5/10 in the qualifying session. Like, yes, push the car, but there's a limit, you know, because it's better for you to start P4 than for you to start P10. Like, you just need to understand that, okay, my car has a limitation, and that's all I can do, you know. Now look at, for example, Carlos Sainz. He pushes the car to the limit, but then it happens like when situations like today present themselves, he's on a podium, and that's all you need, you know. So that was that. And for the top three, my predictions was for Max Verstappen to win the race, for Lando Norris to finish P2, and for Charles Leclerc to be P3. I just finished discussing Charles Leclerc. Leclerc had a horrible weekend. I think even at the beginning of the race, I think he had a contact with I think was it Sergio Perez and Oscar Piastri. I think they had a collision sometime between those three, but he was the only one that had a damage, so he had to pit, and from there his race was destroyed. Really, he just drove from P. At a certain point, he was at the end. He was at the back fighting with the Williams. I don't know, man. Like it was just horrible weekend for Charles Leclerc in general, but he was able to finish up P11. When Ferrari said, "Oh, Charles, we're telling Charles he's in contention for the points," I'm like, "Huh? What race are you watching? Clearly not the one that we're watching right now." But that happened, and yeah, just a weekend to forget for Charles Leclerc in general. Hopefully, he does better at Silverstone. I think he should because he's also very good on that track. And in P2, Oscar Piastri came in P2, and well, Oscar started the race P7. He had a very good race, to be honest. And because of what happened in the race, if you don't know, I think I'll just say it now. Max and Lando had a contact, and yeah, they were leading. I think everything being equal, if that contact did not happen, Max would have been P1, Lando would have been P2. But as a result of that contact, Lando didn't finish the race, and Max ended up P5. He got a 10-second penalty, but that did not affect his finishing time anyway. 10-second penalty, he finished like maybe 13 seconds ahead of the person in sixth, which was Nico Hulkenberg. We'll get to that very soon. And yeah, Oscar Piastri P2. Oscar, I think, will be fighting himself, he'll be hard on himself because if he had qualified, but honestly, that qualifying I felt for him because his lap was deleted. His lap was deleted because they said he exceeded track limits. But then they already put the gravels that will prevent the drivers that if you exceed track limit, you're gonna end up in the gravel because they don't want the driver to get advantage by going off the track, right? But he went. I mean, it's tricky, like because he was on the limit of being in the gravel and crossing that white line. You know, like he was clearly off the line for sure. Like he was off track, but also part of his tire was in the gravel. So I don't think there was really an advantage that he got. But you know what? He should have started the race P3, and if he started P3, he would have easily won this race, honestly. But there's always time for everything, and you know, his day will come. One day he will be a Grand Prix winner, but for now, it's just not his turn yet. And in P1, George Russell. George Russell was just, he was just driving his race today. He didn't fight with nobody. I think he was having a very boring race. He just kept a distance between himself and Carlos Sainz behind him, and they just kept on going like that, up until Max and Lando decided to get cozy up, because that's all I can say about it. They decided to get cozy, like, oh, let my car meet your car, and let's form a baby car, because I don't understand what the hell that was. But we'll get to that at the end. Stay to the end for that one. Russell won. Russell won the race, and you know what? You can't complain. It was right place, right time, right strategy, right everything. He just did well. It was just a quiet weekend for Russell. For honestly, just good drive. No complaints there. And yeah, and my crazy prediction was that 5 drivers will get their lap times deleted. I think if you watch the last video, I said 10 actually. But then I didn't know about the upgrades the adjustments that had been made to the track. So because of those adjustments, there wasn't a lot of track limits violation like that. So I'm gonna forget about my crazy prediction for this week. Now let's get into other things that happened in the race itself. As I said, I'm trying to be as quick as possible because I need to be somewhere. So the race reports. Alpine. Wow, Alpine had an amazing race. Technically, I think Gasly finished P10, but it was quite spicy at a particular point because Ocon and Gasly almost finished each other today, honestly. And I don't know whose idea it was to have Gasly and Ocon on the same team, but it was never a good idea. I'm just so glad that Ocon is leaving at the end of the year. Gasly continues. Hopefully they bring in someone that Gasly gets on. I think anyone but Ocon will be good for Gasly, really, at this point. But yeah, they were battling, racing hard at a particular point. Ocon being Ocon, like my teammate cannot overtake me and stuff. I think there was even some stuff he did with Alonso, but that's for another day. Aston Martin were just having a very horrible weekend. Yeah, those guys, man. I can't imagine what Lawrence Stroll is going through right now. Well, you know what? It happens. So yeah, the battle between the Alpines, Gasly came out on top. Yeah, and when he overtook Ocon at the end, he was like, "Ciao." I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay. I see you, Gasly." Yeah, but it was an amazing one. And Haas, what an amazing weekend for Haas. I think Hulkenberg got into Q3, if I'm not mistaken. I think he qualified P10. I don't remember, but I think he qualified P10. And Hulkenberg qualified P12 or P13, I think somewhere around there. But yeah, they got double points finish. I think it was an amazing race for them. Good race pace. Yeah. I think Hulkenberg, I think this is their highest finish of the year. Hulkenberg finished P6 behind Max, and Magnussen finished P8 behind Checo. Right. Now, that's Sergio Perez. Oh my goodness. Sergio Perez. Listen, I see people complaining about drivers in F1 right now. People complaining about Logan Sargent. People complaining about Lance Stroll. Oh, Logan is not performing well. Lance Stroll is only in F1 because of his dad. But Sergio Perez. Oh my goodness. What is going on? I don't know. I can't explain what's going on with Sergio Perez because, like, even if you're trying to defend him at this point, it doesn't make sense. In qualifying, the gap between you and your teammate is P1 and you are 8 tenths. I think I'm trying to be correct because I think it was in the qualifying for the sprint race, he was 8 tenths behind. And in the main race, he was almost a second, or is it 1.04 seconds, something like that, on one lap. On one lap, it doesn't make sense. What Sergio Perez is doing in that Red Bull, honestly, is shameful. Like, I'm sure if you put Daniel Ricciardo in that car, it's not going to be that bad. It can't be that bad. So whatever is going on with Sergio needs to fix up. Like, honestly, because I know they gave you a new contract that if you keep performing like that, you might cost Red Bull the constructors. And that will not be good because they can have reason to drop you now and bring on Ricciardo. I know they will not bring on Sonoda, but for sure, Ricciardo is an option because I don't think Red Bull went through all that stress to not bring on Ricciardo. If they get that opportunity, because even Ricciardo might not be performing, but he's doing better than Checo at the moment, to be honest, because of the kind of car Checo is driving. It might not be the fastest car at the moment, but it's a very, very good car, you know? And, well, even in the race, oh, Lord. Checo was fighting with Haas. Nico Hulkenberg overtook Checo on the final lap to get P6. Why? Checo, why? Because it don't make no sense, Checo. A Red Bull and a Haas battling. It doesn't make no sense. Honestly, if they need to get Checo a psychologist, they should do that. Because whatever is going on with Checo, it don't make no sense. I know there are periods like in other sports, let's say like I'm a huge fan of football. Like there are times where a particular athlete is going through a tough time and all of that. But what Sergio Perez is going through, I can't explain it. I really can't explain it. And to the final things that happened. The reason we are here today, Lando and Max Verstappen. So if you don't know, Lando and Max Verstappen collided during the race, during a battle. So basically what happened, beginning of the race, Max put on a good gap between him and Lando. After the first sets of pit stops, the gap was still there. I think it was like 6 or 7 seconds. I think at a certain point it was up to 8 seconds. But during the final pit stops, when Max came in, Lando came in right behind them. But then Red Bull had an issue. A 6-second pit stop for Max Verstappen. And that changed the entirety of the race. Not only did they have a 6-second pit stop, they put Max Verstappen on used mediums. And Lando had a good stop. I think he had like a 2 point something. And he was on fresh medium tires. And from there, it was drama upon drama. It was, oh my goodness. I don't think we've seen this Max Verstappen. I know people have been saying, oh, Max has matured and all of that. And I'm like, he's still the same guy. It's just that people are not close enough to fight him. And he's a very good driver. Don't get me wrong. Max Verstappen is the best driver in Formula One at the moment. Yes, Lewis and Alonso are great, but they are not as good as Max right now. Clearly number one. But today things got really spicy, you know. I know Lando was trying everything to overtake Max. And I don't think Lando has been pushed like this before in his career. I think he's getting to that point where, as I said, he has to get used to battling in front, but also today shows that he also needs to be calm when doing these things. Like, I know a lot of people out there are saying it's Max's fault. Max was the cause of the crash and all of that. But for me, I feel like it's a racing incident. Like, you can't blame Max for anything there because, listen, every driver will do the best to defend his position. And as long as it's within the rule books, the FIA are not complaining about it. There's not, for me, what Max, the contact between Max and Lando is basically what happened between Ocon and Gasly. But it was just unfortunate that this time there was a puncture. Because if there was no puncture, race would have gone on like that, and we will not be discussing this right now. And I know there are a lot of British fans and a lot of fans from, I'm not going to mention the fan base, but they know themselves that always think, oh, Max is a terrible driver, he's this, he's that. Honestly, I don't care about those kind of things. But if you look at it, both drivers did so many things wrong. Yeah, you could say Max was moving on that braking, but also Lando was doing pulling off some irrational behaviors as well. Like, why you dive bombing like that? It doesn't make no sense. You're giving the guy what he needs to behave the way he wants to behave. And you know you cannot outdo Max Verstappen when it comes to race antics. You cannot. Even the best tried. How did he end up for him? I mean, you could say FIA fumble gave Verstappen the title in 2021, but I can tell you one thing. Lewis Hamilton will never forget that season in his life because of the length he had to go to battle against Verstappen. And then Lando with one win is here trying to, as you have to be perfect. You have a faster car than Verstappen. If you don't know how to race Verstappen, go and meet Charles Leclerc. Take tutorials from Charles Leclerc. I know people say, "Oh, Max is always very aggressive and all of that. If you can't pass him, like it's either he crashes into you or you can't pass him." No. Look at Charles Leclerc. Max and Charles have been battling for so many years. At least let's say 4, 5. Even before the Red Bull got better, like there was a time when the Ferrari was good. I think this was like maybe 2019, 2020, thereabout. They've been battling since then till now. They've banged wheels, but there's never been any crash. So I don't know. It's not like Max can race cleanly. If you race clean, Max will race clean. But if you're trying to force something from him, it's gonna be problematic. It might not end well for you. Because Max is that kind of guy that will be like, listen, if you think you're going to bully me to pass, you're on another thing. Because you're not going to pass. And we all know how this one ended. And there was also some comments post-race, and Lando was like, Lando was saying he did everything right. Lando, no. Listen, I like Lando, but Lando messed up in this one. Like, both of them have to claim responsibility for what happened on this occasion, because there is no way you would say you did everything right. No, the dive bombs you threw, no, that because Max could have easily crashed into Lando and would have ended both of their races. But a lot of times when Lando made those dive bombs, what did Max do? Max just went outside, and well, of course you would say leaving the track and gaining an advantage, but no, he was closed up. He would just go on the radio and say, "Oh no, he pushed me off track." and you will get away with it. So you have to be strategic when battling Max. Know when to pick your point and listen. You don't have to go at it like the Lando we saw yesterday during the sprint race, where at a certain point he backed off Piastri, managed his tires, and attacked at the end. He almost got Piastri. You know, I think a few more laps he would have overtaken Piastri. That's what he should have done. He was on new sets of tires. He was catching Max quickly, and he was also putting himself in a predicament where there was he could have lost the race because he already had a 5 second time penalty. It was just unfortunate that they came together because if they didn't come together, that 5 second penalty, I think he might have made things a bit better. The racing between them, I think Max will have just allowed him to go, and he will just hang on to him in the DRS. Just chase him to the end and get the win by how will I put it, by a factor of the 5 second penalty. It gives Max the race win. I think, but this is where I now go to the FIA, because sorry, not the FIA, the race stewards. The race stewards, honestly, you guys took so much time to make a decision on that incident. Like when Lando was given a black and white flag for track limits, he went over the track one more time. It should not have taken as long as they did to give Lando that 5 second penalty. I know we don't want the stewards to ruin the race for us and be like, oh, like we want them to race, we want to see drivers racing and all of that. But if they had given that 5 second penalty to Lando, I honestly think the outcomes would have been different. Yes, Lando will have, maybe Max might even have allowed Lando to overtake him, but he'll hang on to him to the end of the race because there's no way Lando was pulling off 5 seconds in 10 laps till the end of the race. No way. Not on Max Verstappen, even though he was on used tires. But yeah, it was just for me, I see it as a racing incident. I see a lot of people going, oh, this is the side of Max. Max has always been Max. This race doesn't change nothing. He has not changed. It's just that they are not cars good enough to challenge him. And case in point, we have a McLaren that is trying to right now. And so far, they're doing a good job. It's just that they can't win a race. Because even though they are very good, Max Verstappen is also very good, and Lando's comments after the interview, after the race, the interview. Oh no, just don't. I think Lando needs to grow a tough skin, to be honest, and I think this is also where, even though we don't like Jos Verstappen, you can't lie that, or you can't fault him the way he has raised Max. Max is so tough, like. For you to get through to Max, I mean, we can all complain about how the upbringing was, but that toughness, that fire that is in him is what makes the difference of him being a world champion or him being how good he is. Because if you hear the things Lando was saying, oh, you've lost respect for him. You said the same thing about Charles Leclerc. He didn't change anything. What you need to do is learn to be calm and grow some thick skin, because if you're gonna win a championship against Max Verstappen, bro, you have a long way to go. Like, you have a really long way to go. And this is not me being harsh or anything. Yes, people will say, oh, I'm supporting Max. I honestly don't care, because as far as I'm concerned, I think that was a racing incident. Anyway, and that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're here, you spent the entire time watching this video, I really appreciate it. Kindly like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And I will be dropping my preview for the British Grand Prix, I think on Tuesday. So look out for that one. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.